Looking through the prism of time, I realize that I have been a complete loser all my life. Although I had excellent results at work and a beautiful, faithful wife, everything collapsed in an instant and many factors influenced it. And maybe I would have remained unlucky if on one of my most terrible days I had not seen my wife cheating on me in a car in the woods. Enjoy watching it. I never thought that I would someday face a problem I wouldn't know how to solve. My life had been quite fortunate. I grew up in a family with average income, and thanks to that, I was able to receive a good education. While my peers were out enjoying themselves, I sat behind textbooks, always understanding that I wanted a decent and prosperous life. As they say, money comes to those who work. I wasn't a handsome guy. I had excess weight, which became a target for many taunts. Even college teachers had commented on my weight, but I didn't care. I had an iron will, and I could always respond with something witty. "Russell, please, engage in sports. Soon you won't fit through the door frame," said my teacher, Mrs. Spencer, and the whole class burst into laughter. But then, in one of the lessons, it was my turn to laugh when Mrs. Spencer drank a cup of tea, into which I and 5 of my classmates had spat. Similar incidents happened a lot in my life, starting from elementary school to college. After finishing college, I hoped that I wouldn't encounter bullying anymore, as this was adult life, and people should be more reasonable. Unfortunately, my prediction didn't come true. I almost immediately got a job in a sales department. In 2 years, I managed to rise to the position of department director, earning good money. I was good at sales, and honestly, I needed it because I urgently needed money. Some colleagues envied me and sincerely couldn't understand why I excelled at sales. This envy resulted in clear resentment from my colleagues. They stopped inviting me to lunch, and during work, they could make offensive jokes about me. However, I didn't care. At that moment, I understood that it was either a good relationship with the team or money. But my life changed dramatically when one day, I smelled my boss's cologne on my wife. It was the most dreadful period of my life. Angela, my beauty, was the ray of light in my life. We met when I was still in college, a spontaneous encounter on the street that turned into a real romance. She found my excess weight amusing, always saying I was very cute. Angela worked in a real estate sales company as a secretary. Our family budget was enough to cover all basic needs, and we invested and spent the remaining money on our desires. We often talked about children. "Darling, how would you like to name a boy?" "Oh, I don't know, but I'd definitely name a girl Elizabeth. What do you think?" "I love it." Conversations about children and our future happened frequently, so I worked hard to ensure our kids lacked nothing. Due to my promotion, I started spending more time at work since I had 8 employees under my supervision, but they all treated me disrespectfully. I always knew that during breaks they discussed and talked about what a jerk I was, and I could sense their disdain for me. "Look, the fat pig is coming," they would say, thinking I couldn't hear. I silently ignored it, maintaining my professionalism. Only later did I realize that I should have been stricter with them, but no one taught me that. When I tried to reprimand someone seriously, I received silly mockery in response. Because the employees were disloyal and the sales department didn't achieve the desired results, my boss demoted me, saying, "You're not up to this position yet, so be an ordinary worker." After a 3-second pause, he added, "And lose some weight finally." And under his disgusting laughter, I left his office. Due to my demotion, my income decreased, and my wife Angela started reproaching me for it. "How come, Russell, you couldn't hold on to a managerial position for even 3 months, and they demoted you?" I felt uneasy about it myself, but I couldn't do anything. I started working even harder to somehow support our current financial situation. I began coming home late and practically stopped seeing my wife. I only saw her at night when she was sleeping. At one point, I couldn't take it anymore and requested a day off to somehow regain my strength. Angela was working that day, so I spent the whole day at home on the couch, not realizing how time flew by. I prepared dinner for Angela, having everything ready for her arrival. But Angela never came. She returned home only 2 hours later. "Why are you so late? Did something happen?" "No, everything is fine. I just got busy and really want to sleep," she replied. I helped Angela undress and took off her jacket. At first I couldn't believe what I smelled, but sniffing her jacket, I detected the scent of my boss's cologne. I wouldn't mistake that smell for anything else. Mr. Turner uses expensive perfume, and every time I was in his office, I could smell it. It made my eyes twitch. I didn't attach much importance to it, thinking it was just my imagination. Angela immediately went to the shower, and after the shower, she didn't touch the dinner I had prepared for her, but went straight to bed. I went to her, expecting intimacy, but not only did I fail, but Angela also rejected me. "Russell, seriously, I don't want anything. I had a tough day." I stepped back, lay down next to her, and fell asleep. 3 weeks passed, and I began to notice more and more oddities in our marriage. Angela refused intimacy and distanced herself from me. I thought she was just upset with me because of my demotion. I tried to resolve the situation by giving her flowers, inviting her to movies and restaurants, but she refused, constantly saying she was tired. Things weren't going well at work either. Due to problems in my marriage, I focused less on work. Colleagues, who started mocking me more after my demotion, exacerbated the situation. It seemed to me that my life was spiraling into an abyss. After another attack from colleagues with mockery, I left the office and locked myself in the bathroom. I sat there for about 20 minutes planning to come out, when suddenly 2 of my colleagues entered the restroom. I didn't want to face them, so I stayed in the stall. They chatted about some nonsense, but one question from a colleague caught my interest. "Hey, did you know that Mr. Turner has a new woman in his life?" "No, who is she? Is she beautiful?" "Seems like it. I went to the movies with my girlfriend the other day, and I saw Mr. Turner with this girl. I don't know why, but I recalled the scent of my wife's perfume on her clothes and imagined Angela going to the movies with my boss. However, I tried to quickly distract myself from that thought and waited for the moment I could go outside again. In the evening, I returned home, and Angela was there too. She was engrossed in her phone and didn't even acknowledge me, just saying, "Hello." She didn't ask how my day went, how I was doing, and she didn't even prepare dinner for me. This entire situation disrupted my usual rhythm of life. When Angela fell asleep, I decided to check her phone, but it was foolish to hope for anything since it was protected. Disappointed, I went to sleep with absolute confusion about what to do next. I began to feel like I was losing my mind. In the morning, Angela went to work, and I stayed home. The most frustrating part was that I had no one to turn to for help, and I was alone, left alone with my thoughts at home. In the evening, Angela didn't come home on time again. When I called her, I got a quick response. "Russell, what's the problem? I'm working." "When will you be back?" "When I finish work, I don't know exactly." I heard passing cars in the background, so I realized she clearly wasn't in the office. Perplexed, I didn't suspect where I could find her, but a few minutes later a thought struck me. I remembered an important detail. Angela and I bought new iPhones a year ago, and they have a locator. We connected them to each other so that, in case of need, we could quickly find each other. However, for the exact location to be displayed, the phone needs to be connected to the internet. I checked the locator and found Angela's location. She was in her office, but the data had been inactive for 2 hours. I couldn't think of anything better than to take a picture of myself and send it to Angela in a messenger with the caption, "Come back soon, I'm waiting for you," to make her turn on mobile internet and connect to the network. "Russell, I'm turning off my phone now. Do you understand that you're disturbing me at work?" "Sweetheart, just for a second, please check the messenger." "Is it something urgent?" "Yes, very." A few minutes later, I saw Angela come online and send a question mark to my photo, but I didn't care anymore. I was glad that my bait worked. Opening the locator, I discovered Angela's new location. She was near a picnic park. What is she doing there? I thought to myself and called a taxi. I decided to call her again, but her phone was already turned off. Sitting in the taxi, I contemplated the events, thinking about what might happen in that little forest, and my knees were shaking. I felt uneasy. Unfortunately, the taxi driver brought me to the destination very quickly. Getting out of the car, I had about a 10-minute walk ahead of me, and I would be there. Venturing deeper into the forest, I began to hear a muffled sound. Unable to discern what it was, I moved towards the peculiar noise. There, I spotted a car, a Mazda CX-5, my boss's vehicle. The car rocked from side to side and all the windows were fogged up. I observed from a distance and decided to sneak closer. Due to the tinted windows, I couldn't make out who was inside. I could hear distinct moans resembling those of my wife. Picking up a medium CZ rock, I approached the rear window and tapped on it. The moans abruptly ceased and silence fell. "Who's there?" Mr. Turner's voice echoed. "It's Russell. Open the door." After my words, there was commotion inside the car and Turner cracked open the window. "What do you want, Chubby? Get out of here." His pupils were insanely dilated, resembling a predator's. I tried to make out the girl, but she was hidden under a blanket. "Is this my wife? Are you blind? Where did you see your wife here? Get lost before I come out. I need to know, is this my wife or not? No, get out of here or you'll lose your job." A verbal altercation ensued and I decided to step back. Pretending to leave, I returned after a couple of minutes, sneaking up to the car again. Since the window was slightly open, I could hear voices and I recognized Angela's voice. I became certain it was her. I stepped aside and hurled a stone at the rear window with all my might, causing it to crack. "Have you completely lost your mind?" I grabbed another, larger stone and, on my second attempt, shattered the window, finally seeing my wife's face. At that moment, Turner emerged in his underwear, armed with a baseball bat, heading in my direction. I took another stone and threw it at him, but he deflected it with the bat. Realizing it was futile to engage in a fight, I tried to escape, but Turner picked up a stone and hit me directly on the head, causing me to fall to the ground. As I regained consciousness after the blow, Turner approached me and swung the bat with full force, saying, "That was too much, pup." Turner began hitting me first in the legs, then switching to the body. From the pain, I lost consciousness. I woke up the next day in the hospital. The doctor approached me and said that I had a concussion and a fracture in my left leg. To my great disappointment, no one except the doctor was waiting for me, and I spent the whole day lying in a hospital bed. The next day, 2 police officers came to my room and asked me to recount what happened the day before. And before that, they clarified. "Is your wife's name Angela, Mr. Russell?" I confirmed and began to tell them what really happened. I recounted every detail, including the damage I caused to Mr. Turner's car, as I had nothing to hide. The police listened to my version and told me to file a statement against Mr. Turner for assaulting me. However, I chose not to do so. It's a pity you decided not to, Mr. Russell, because Mr. Turner filed a statement against you, claiming that you attacked him, damaged his car, and even hit him a couple of times. Mr. Turner had to defend himself with a baseball bat, and your wife Angela confirmed all of this. Hearing all this, I wasn't even surprised. I didn't care at all. I even expected these two to conspire against me and tell everything to the police. After all, there was no need for him to file a statement against me. Why did he do it? The police thanked me for providing information and left my ward while I remained lying there, lost in my thoughts. I understood that I wouldn't be imprisoned and I would just have to pay compensation. What bothered me more was that I was lying in the medical ward, not Mr. Turner. I felt a disgust even thinking about him and my wife. I realized I needed to be a bit more cunning so I wouldn't make such a mistake again. I stayed in the hospital for another 4 days, and then I was discharged. During this time, a divorce lawyer came to me, asking me to sign the divorce papers. Without hesitation, I signed them. I returned to an entirely empty house. It felt like Angela hadn't even entered it. This home was no longer what it used to be, and I didn't want to be in it. I tried to contact Angela, but she hung up, and a minute later, her lawyer called me, asking what I wanted. I silently hung up. I didn't know where to go and what to do, so I decided to check the savings box. There was nothing in it. Apparently, Angela decided to leave me with nothing. I understood that most likely I had already been fired, but I had to return to the office to at least get my salary. Arriving at the office, I was clearly not welcome. Someone else had taken my place, and colleagues began to tell me to leave. I tried to explain what happened and that I wanted to meet with Mr. Turner, but all I got in response were more mockery, and they forcefully ejected me from the office. I never did meet with Mr. Turner. The situation was a disaster. I had no money. All the savings we had accumulated over the years were gone, and it was evident that Angela took them. Even if I file a complaint against her, the likelihood of getting help is zero. I needed money to get through the next couple of months, so I decided to borrow from my parents. All that was left was to wait for the legal proceedings. The first case took place after a month and a half, where Mr. Turner accused me of assault. But I won the case because I had serious injuries. My lawyer convinced me to file a counterclaim, so I only had to cover the car repair costs, and Mr. Turner had to pay me full compensation. The next court was with Angela, whom I hadn't seen in 2 months. She was still beautiful, but I felt nothing for this woman. I didn't care. We got divorced and divided all the property equally, but unfortunately I couldn't get a share of the funds we had saved together. However, I didn't count on them. With everything settled, nothing kept me in the city, and I planned to leave to forget everything I had been through here. Still, I wanted to finish one unfinished business. My boss and Angela stopped hiding and openly showed they were a couple. Before leaving, I decided to leave a little surprise for my boss. Since I had sued my boss, I knew where he lived, so on the night before leaving, I decided to visit him. It was midnight, and his Mazda was parked near the house. First, I took 3 buckets of paint and poured them on the car. Then I threw 5 bricks into his car and threw 1 stone at the window before quickly disappearing. I didn't stick around to see what would happen. I just quietly left the scene of the crime. After moving to another state, I started a new life. I found a job at a company much better than my previous one, and the coolest thing was the friendly and cohesive team. Living alone, I didn't have to work every day. Instead, during my free time, I started going to the gym and the pool. I radically changed my lifestyle, and now, 3 years later, my body is in great shape. I earned and saved enough money, and I'm not looking for new relationships. I have a couple of friends, but I try not to let them get too close. A lot has changed in 3 years. I actively followed what was happening in my old town through social networks and acquaintances. The most important thing is that my ex-wife married Mr. Turner, who cheated on her after a year, and, in the end, Angela tried to reconcile with me again. She messaged me every day, begging to meet, conveniently omitting that she's divorced for the 2nd time. She couldn't even take anything from Mr. Turner because he turned out to be much smarter. In general, Angela tried to restart a relationship with me. Once she came to my town, and we had sex in a hotel. Still, the next morning, I quickly left while she was still sleeping, and after that I didn't contact her because she was useless. The only reason I communicated with her was hoping to find an answer to why she decided to cheat on me. And my opinion now is this: she stopped seeing potential in me and decided to choose a wealthier man. But no matter how rich a man is, karma will take its toll because his company went bankrupt. When I joined his company, everything was on the brink. It was chaos in the office, and I genuinely believed that the company survived for a few more years only because of me. All those colleagues who used to mock me now write angry comments on my social media because they are unemployed, and they see that my life has improved. This situation amuses me because I spent a long time trying to understand why I endured these humiliations in school, then college, then at work, and finally in family life. Now I understand that if I had chosen a different behavior strategy everywhere, I would be on top now, while I am gradually climbing back to the top. I never believed that I could lose weight, but now it's a reality for me, and I understand that with enough determination you can achieve anything. Even though I was humiliated and dragged through the mud, all my tormentors got what they deserved. I don't care much about it. I am now fully focused on my life and want to become better every day.
That's the end of the story. We will be interested to hear your opinion on this story. Do you think the main character deserved what happened to him? When did the main character's wife make the final decision to cheat on him? Why did people allow themselves to mock the main character? How could he stand up to everyone? Is it possible to conclude that all the bad things that happened to the hero made him even better in the end? We will be glad to read your opinion. Also, subscribe to the channel and like it. If you liked the story, good luck.